Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our issue 32 autumn 2021 launch. And just in time, the books have arrived. So I'm Jen Landels. I've got Jen Wynand co-hosting with me today. So welcome, Jen.
Hello, welcome, Jen.
So we have a wonderful lineup of authors with us today. We're going to have some readings. We're going to have some door prizes. We're going to announce the long list for the Raven contest, so stay tuned till the end. If you have comments for the authors, please, you can post them in Discord or you can post them on the YouTube link. Either one is fine, and we will see them here backstage one way or the other. And if you have a question for an author, post it up there and we'll try to get it to that author. So be sure to join the Discord as well. You should find a link. I was wondering, actually, I'm going to put a Discord link up in the YouTube chat, just in case anybody doesn't have that already. So join us on Discord, because that's where all the cool backstage stuff happens. And I apologize for typing noises, because my keyboard tray is really loose and it rattles every time I type. So that's what that thundering noise in the background is. So go there, you'll find us on Discord. You can hang out, you can enter for door prizes. The way you enter for a door prize is to go to the door prize channel. You'll see a list of names with numbers. Put the next number in line down, put your name there, and periodically throughout the show, we'll just draw some prizes. We have some fun stuff to win. And we're just about getting ready. And we have some regrets. Unfortunately, Melissa Nielsen can't be with us today live because she's in her car, and Robin Malcolm also can't be with us today because she's with her husband in hospital, who is doing well, but we wish her all the best, and she was gamely going to try to stream in from the hospital room, which is just above and beyond, and we appreciate the effort so much, but hospitals are noisy places. So all love and good wishes to you, Robin, and to your husband. So our first reader for today, I'm just going to get her ready to go on stream, is going to be Leslie Wibberley. Jen, do you want to tell us a little bit about Leslie?
I am happy to. Leslie lives in a suburb of Vancouver, Canada, with her amazing family and an overly enthusiastic Cocker Spaniel. Leslie writes across a wide variety of genres, age groups, and narrative styles. Her work is published in multiple literary journals and anthologies, and has placed first in the Writer's Digest annual writing competition and in their Popular Fiction Awards. And we were delighted to publish her story in this issue.
And she doesn't always look like Maleficent.
I feel underdressed with you two.
Yeah. Hi, Leslie.
Hi. I am going to just do a quick apology that my Snap camera has taken over my camera and I don't know how to turn it off. So, but I decided I'm just going to own it because my story is about creepy crows. So my apologies.
And you've got one on your shoulder too.
I do. I brought my little pet along with me.
I've only just recovered from your story, Leslie, and now you're bringing one to the actual.
Sorry, I forgot about his bird. He's a nice crow. Okay, so should I just start reading?
Well, sure. You can tell us a little bit about your story if you'd like first, and then give us a little taste of it.
I was inspired to write the story because a few years ago, our trip to my daughter's dance class took us through this section of town, just off the highway here in Vancouver, where there's like thousands and thousands of these, where they just come swooping in every night. And she called it Bird Town, and she loved it. And it it made me very uncomfortable to say that. And I don't really mind crows, but when there's that many of them, it's a little creepy. So the story was born from that experience.
Well,
And
wonderful. Let's have a little bit.
Sorry?
Oh, let's have a little bit of it then.
Okay, a little taste of the story. Doesn't get to the real creepy part, but attempted murder. I peered through the windshield of our ancient Buick. Dark clouds of birds filled the twilight sky in an undulating stream, wings beating with singular intent as they headed to their nightly roosting spots. Many more perched on rooftops, along wires and fences, and in the trees that lined the street. Blue-black demons disguised as crows. Goosebumps erupted across my skin, and a cold sweat trickled down my back. My breathing changed tempo, becoming shallow and rapid. The muscles in my chest tightened as my heart rate accelerated. Nausea danced in my belly. Holy shit, Agnes, pull yourself together. You've been driving through the same neighborhood twice a week for 2 months. I wondered if it was finally time to see someone about this phobia of mine. Reading my mind, Frankie, my 15-year-old daughter, asked, "What do you suppose they're thinking about? The crows?" "Yeah, you seem so intent. They must be thinking about something important." From the corner of my eye, I could see her hands waving expansively at the front windshield and passenger side window. The roosting birds stared down at us, their beady eyes filled with malevolence as the Buick limped along the street. Probably about who they should murder. Months earlier, when our route to Frankie's new dance class had led us through this unsettling phenomena, she'd named this section of the city Bird Town. Every evening as twilight approached, it welcomed thousands of the feathered fiends. "Mom, get serious." "I am serious. They freak me out. Always have, always will. They're just birds, not messengers from hell. Can't prove that by me. I hate them. Ever since that evil black shit dive bomb me almost picked my eyeball out." I tapped the small jagged scar above my left eyebrow. Frankie snorted. "Get over it, Mom. That was over 30 years ago. And besides, one attack doesn't mean all of bird kind is out to get you." I raised a brow. "Don't be so sure. They know I hate them. It's like when you meet someone and immediately decide you don't like them. They can tell. That's why they dislike you back. Well, that's what it's like with me and the birds. A mutual hating." I'd been 12, out raking leaves in our front yard. A crow grabbed a baby robin from the nest in the blue spruce at the back of the lawn. The baby bird fell from the crow's grasp, landing on the grass by my feet. Horrified, I bent to rescue the tiny thing, cradling it in my hand. The crow swooped, claws outstretched, and attacked me. I dropped the baby so I could swat at the damn crow. It kept pecking at my hands until it drew blood. Then the evil shit dove at the back of my head, clawing at my hair. I flung the rake and managed to hit the crow. He flew away and landed in a tree. I wept at the blood pouring down the back of my hand and backed up towards our porch, gaze fixed on the crow all the way. Seconds later, the damn thing erupted from the tree and flew at my eyes. I ducked my head and covered my face with my arms, but not before a claw ripped the skin above my left eye. My dad heard me screeching and ran out, brandishing a broom. He scared the crow off. Mom cleaned off my face and hands. It took him over an hour to settle me down. Dad told me it was just a random act and nothing to worry about. I never believed him. Mom brought me a cup of peppermint tea, and she and I sat together by the front window, staring at the tree, the robin's nest, and the 2 birds doing battle. The mother robin tried valiantly to defend her nest. The crow was too large, too powerful. In the end, it tossed every damn one of those babies onto the ground. It didn't even use the nest. The next day, I borrowed Dad's pellet gun. I was a good shot. And I'm going to stop there.
Oh, that was awesome, Leslie.
Thank you.
Let me just try to switch this back from solo layout. Come on, StreamYard. There we go. So the story does get creepier and creepier from there. I just want to warn everybody. And this issue.
Bird Codex, baby. Sorry, Jen.
Has your daughter read the story?
No, she hasn't actually. Maybe when I actually have a copy in my hands, I'll make her read it.
You'll make her.
Never freaked out. Yeah, it never freaked her out. But
well, and we will point out that this story is not memoir.
Yes, and really the story is about a woman facing her demons and finding her strength. That's really,
Absolutely.
the birds are just the catalyst for that.
The birds are a metaphor, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Creepy metaphor.
Yeah. No actual crows were harmed in the making of this.
Right.
Or humans.
Or humans, yes.
I also wanted to add that not all of Leslie's stories are quite this creepy, and she does have another story that we've published, which was in issue 21, which was Stone Cold, and it does have a slight horror bent as well. But it's not quite as chilling as this one. But this one was excellent for a Halloween, autumn issue. So thank you for sending that in, Leslie, and
thank you for the honor of publishing it. That was amazing. Thank you. It's a bucket list item for me for sure.
Well, all right. I'm going to bring Matthew on stage now. So Matthew Nielsen, aka Nuclear Jackal.
Hello.
Hello. And I understand you haven't got a camera today.
No, it's a bit buried right now, but we do have screen share because it is a comic. So that's the next best thing.
Yeah. So do you want to tell us a little bit about this story?
Yeah, so this is just a little story about all the different houses I lived in over the past couple of years. I've lived in many different houses. We keep moving all the time, our family, for various reasons. So I decided to make a comic out of it, just to keep track of everything going on. And each house has a few stories attached to it. So I thought it'd be nice to sort of map it out and share it and see what people think.
Yeah, well, it's a delightful artwork style, and it's very, very different in tone from what we've published from you before, which was the Endless Drop.
The Endless Drop was a bit more grim.
You and Mina did.
Yeah.
And that was in this issue. There we go. Pulp Literature, issue 22. So that was straight up sci-fi, but this is quite a different tone and quite a different art style. So I'm excited for our listeners, our watchers, to see this. So I can go ahead and full screen you if you want a screen share.
Would it be okay if I read from issue 31? Because that's the first part of the story. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share that now. How does that look?
We are still just seeing your cute little cartoon there.
Okay. Because it should be screen sharing now, according to... Oh, I know. Swap it over here. I think... Okay. Don't know what's going on there.
Nope, that's not it.
In the meantime, this is the issue in which he'll be reading from, right? With part one.
There we go. Yeah.
Everything working now?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, this is the one that was previously published. And then part 2 is in the current one. Issue 32 is in part 2, and part 1 is in issue 31. So I hope the audio sync is going well here, because I'm going to scroll down to the first panel here, and hopefully everything's good.
It looks good.
So I have lived in 11 houses so far, give or take. Actually, as of reading this, I'm on my 12th house now. So there we go. There are many houses I stayed in for a few months, up to a few years, And I've also been in boarding schools. But I don't tend to count those because, they don't really feel like homes. They're just places, more like business places. So moving house is stressful, but doubly so when you are disturbed by changes to your routine. Things get lost, things get damaged, and the changes aren't always for the better. There are many aspects of my life I could talk about, but this time I'd like to share with you some memories I have associated with each of these houses. Some memories I can't quite attach to houses. These would be grouped with other categories in my mind. I can't remember which house I lived in during my vacation to Denmark as a child, but it must have been the second one. So the first house I lived in was in Dyfrdwy in Monmouthshire in Wales. And that was a village with a population of only a few hundred. And it's, it's the kind of place where it's like, oh, what house do you live in? Oh, I live in this house. You don't even give them a number, It's like they all have names. Now, my parents had only been living there for a few months when I was born, and I was the third child in my family. And I remember these toys specifically. I remember Blue Bear. I think the dog ate him. And I remember Nothing, who I lost at one point. And I lived there for the first 3 years of my life. And I have a handful of vague memories, including that time my cat took out a pigeon. And I remember cycling down the lane in my tricycle. There was that time my mum was scared of a mouse that had gotten into the kitchen. I recall her holding a brown Tupperware box and standing on a chair, like in the cartoons. And what I thought was my earliest ever memory turned out to be a dream. I mean, it makes sense because it was in third person. It was just me sitting on the bed in my mum and dad's king-size bed. So, I mean, you know, it's sometimes hard to tell what were dreams and what were memories then, as we keep remembering our memories and they get continuously corrupted. Now, my parents were good friends with our neighbors, and they remain so to this day. It was the only time we really socialized that much with our neighbors. All the other times we just kept to ourselves, and so did they. Now, moving day was on my third birthday. I didn't know what was happening, but I remember seeing it for the first time. It was an old terraced Victorian house with 4 floors and a large backyard. We were no longer in the village. Now it was in the town of Newport. The United Kingdom has several Newports, and South Wales has 2 of them. So this was the one in Gwent. After a while, our family adopted a shelter dog named Blackberry. Upon seeing the new addition to the family, our cat went from being a house cat to an outdoor cat. She would stay with us nonetheless, even though we moved many times during her life. You know, she'd just live outside. And it turned out that the two of us ended up being allergic to cats anyway, me and my sister. So this way we could just, keep her outside without getting allergic. Now, my eldest sister, well, she had a pet snake named Diana. So one day, when I heard on television that Diana had died, I ran up to my sister's room and said, "Hannah, your snake has died. The TV said." To which she promptly replied, No, they mean Princess Diana." "Oh, okay, that's all right then." I mean, I didn't have a problem with the former Princess of Wales. I mean, I was just happy that the snake was okay. She escaped once, but came back a few months later, twice the size that she originally was. And we also didn't have spiders for a long time during that absence. My parents also decided to renovate the old house in order to sell it. One of the steps involved fixing the old floorboards in my bedroom. So, as my dad was working away, I went over to walk around and see my room. Just 10 years old, walking around going doopy-doopy-doo. And his dad clearly saying, "Matthew, stay away from that corner. Those floorboards are loose." But being bad at paying attention, kind of dumb, and not so good at hearing in the first place, I just walked over there and promptly fell through the floorboards. And it was about an 11-foot drop, And yes, it hurt. But thankfully, I was both lucky and obese. And so I only got away with a bruise on my bum. So yeah, a bit of crying, but no permanent damage. Now, a year or so later, I started getting into creating fantasy worlds inspired by the likes of Dragon Ball Z. And I made a bunch of collectible cards and gave them out to my classmates. Originally, I even called it Final Fantasy Trivia, even though it had absolutely nothing to do with Final Fantasy. And I used the word trivia because, well, I didn't know what it meant, but I thought it sounded cool. I mean, that's just the first 2 houses. There's a bunch more to go through here. But, I lose track of time when I'm reading comics. How much time do we have left?
Oh, I think you can read a couple more pages.
Let's do a few more then. The earliest cards were eventually destroyed because I was worried I'd get arrested for copyright infringement. I renamed it Stephonics and went on to write about 18 planets full of war and adventure. And it was around that time we moved a few houses up the road. Now, this was a huge change for the family because we spent years in the other house. But this one was, it was kind of shite. We were only there for a year or so, but the bathtub eventually partially fell through the bathroom floor. Now, no one was in either rooms when it fell, but it made a hell of a mess. And there were lots of unpleasant events happening around this time. My dad's job wasn't going so well, and our family hit a load of budget changes. It's like when you go from the middle tier store to the lower tier store, and you say, "Oh, this bread doesn't taste as good as the old bread we used to have." Now, I finally got diagnosed with Asperger's around this time too, and I started secondary school. I promptly got expelled for pushing a teacher. I was about 12 at the time. So I was out of school for several months. The children's BBC channel had Class TV, which ran educational shows, and I ended up learning more from TV than school anyway. And just as I started going to boarding school for folk with antisocial behavior issues, it was time to move again. I'll tell you quickly now, with that school there, it wasn't like, oh, do you have Asperger's? It was more like, oh, do you flip over tables and do you smash stuff, right? So that's why we ended up with people from all backgrounds going here, and it wasn't necessarily the best mix, but I can go about that another time. I'll talk about that. So this new house we went to was a vicarage. And vicarages, like this one was going cheap. It was a nice big house. It was detached, But what we didn't know was that the previous occupant, who was a reverend, well, there's some interesting secrets about him we'll talk about here. But we have people knocking on our door still thinking that there was a reverend living there. So there's this bloke here. I'm a bit broke. I was told that the priest could give me some money just for some ciggies is all. And here he is wearing a goldie chain. All right. I mean, he didn't need any money, right? I mean, some were pleasant, but a lot of them were bellends. Yet the realtor didn't tell us this, though, that the reverend was also a pedophile, right? So now we have a bunch of people thinking that we're the reverend and that we're the pedophile. It wasn't very pleasant. And we got a bit of vandalism too. We're talking about rocks through the windows, a bit of that, and lots of theft. We had all sorts of shit stolen. We had my little brother's bicycle, our jack-o'-lanterns, and the laundry basket we used to collect grass. All this stuff was nicked, right? One of the jack-o'-lanterns even had like a nice little glass candle holder in it because we didn't have any candle holders. That was the only ones we had, were the nice crystal ones. Someone even tried stealing my mum's car, but they couldn't. So they set it on fire instead, which was nice, a little fireworks display. Thankfully, it was parked well away from the house, so, we weren't at risk. But we ran into a couple of problems, as to say, when we were living in that house. And it goes on. I mean, we moved into a second vicarage. This time it was in Cardiff. Now, on moving day, I wasn't there, but my dad saw all this. He saw that there was a fight going on right outside our house. First, there was two young women. And then their boyfriends started fighting each other. And then their boyfriends' mothers started fighting each other. And the old Bill, they blasted their sirens from far off, and everyone ran away. No need to actually do anything about it, but just scare them off. And that was that. So, it was a similar situation. Another vicarage, another part of Wales, but similar events hanging around it. And at that point, our cat getting older, getting colder. So my dad built her a nice little wooden house, little cat house to live in. And we'd even put a hot water bottle in there for cold nights. So, she did pass away in this house. And we buried her in the garden. But we still have lots of fond memories of her there. One night, though, my dad and we were watching the television here. And we heard a thud. And we just thought it was the painting. We had a painting hung up on the wall outside. So we thought it was like, not outside, but like in Dad's office, which was one room away. So we're thinking, oh, that painting fell down again, didn't it? And then a little while later, of course, a policeman knocked on our door. And we found out that somebody had drunkenly driven into our metal fence that was bordering our house. And we don't know what actually happened to her. We don't know if she lived or died, but I mean, I'm guessing she was okay because they took her to hospital, but yeah, so that's our fence ruin there too, but whatever. And of course, our house was near the shops. So the garden was often filled up with garbage. We're talking about vodka bottles and everything. And over there in the UK, you don't get money for returning vodka bottles, so we weren't getting any cash out of it, And vandalism continued, and the police did do nothing to help. But they did make sure to tell my dad that they'd lock him up if he ever resorted to vigilantism. So, every time I was coming home from boarding school, this time it was every other weekend I was coming home from boarding school, I would often see new damage to our house or our car, and the mold in my bedroom would grow, and we wouldn't even know because my bookcases were in the way. So we did get rid of the mold. This mold, because the house was so damp, mold was just popping up everywhere. And I'm telling you, it covered like half the room, all right? But finally, my dad got a better job, and we were able to move out to a better part, a better place to live with a lower crime rate and, more police tenacity. So we were actually able to stop getting vandalized, and it was a heavy weight off our shoulders. And I think I'll leave it there. But because there's still more here, and there's even more on issue 32 as well.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Matthew. That's I actually loved hearing that in your voice. I mean, because it's one thing reading it, but when you hear something in the author's voice, it makes it so much more real. And the fact that it is memoir, which normally we don't publish memoir, but we do when it's comic book because genre. So yeah, it's just delightful listening to that and reading along with you. So what are you working on now?
Well, I'm still working on that graphic novel in the background. It's got like 190 pages roughed. It's a little graphic novel about two time travelers. They go into alternate realities, so they don't have to worry about ruining the future. And the place where they live is a deserted 2003 Vancouver, stuck in the same time of day forever, eternally. And they're having a good time because they're all by themselves, just running around the city doing whatever they want. And then time traveling to different places whenever the mood takes them. But the places are random. So, they get an idea of where it's going to be, but they can't just choose where they want to go. And they can't, we're going to prevent World War I because if they go back, they can't go back to the same reality. So it's just going to keep resetting over and over. But it's a lot of fun.
Oh, I can't wait to read it. It's called Tony in Aberdeen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really can't wait to read it. It sounds like so much fun. Well, thank you so much, Matthew. So while I bring Matthew off and our next author on, Jen, can you tell us a little bit about Kelsey Hutton?
I sure can. Kelsey is a Métis author of speculative fiction from Treaty 1 territory in Winnipeg. She particularly loves writing historical fantasy, space opera, first contact stories, and Métis and Cree-shaped SFF for fellow Indigenerds everywhere.
I
Hello.
love that term, Indigenerds.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome. It's so nice to meet you, even virtually, if not in person.
I have to ask how the weather is in Winnipeg right now.
You know what? It's actually pretty sunny and nice. It's bizarre. It's climate change for sure. But it's been unseasonably warm so far.
I was there, I think, in like May one year, and it was snowing, and I don't think that was considered unseasonable.
No, that's like every other year.
Oh, right. I said I was going to do a door prize. I will do, before we launch into your story, I will do that. Oh, I just want to let people know we have a special on from now through tomorrow. It's a buy one, get one. So if you buy anything from our bookstore, that's print, digital, novels, back issues, the current issue, whatever, we have a form, and it's up in the Discord link where you can fill that in and have that same issue sent digitally to a friend of yours. So if you have somebody you want to send some reading material to and you want some for yourself, then buy a book from us and we will send a free copy to your friend. Let me just check the door prize list. So what do you think? What do you guys think? I have a random number generator, or I can stick with the polyhedral dice.
You gotta stick with the dice.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's Halloween after all. Okay. And door prizes. All right, and people, get your name in for the door prizes. There are going to be more door prizes. And right now we only have 9 people who've put their names down, so I can use a single 10-sided die.
Good odds.
And it is number 5, who is Kirsten Ma. So Kirsten, you win a digital copy of the current issue, so issue 32. If you are already a subscriber, and I think you are, let us know. We can send that to a friend of yours. So there you go. Christmas solved early. All right. So Kelsey, why don't you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for this story? We have a lot of creepy stories this issue.
Yes. It's that time of year. So my story is called Cold Blessing, and its inspiration was when I was a kid, I had this book of Cornish legends. And so it was all about devils and witches and little people against the backdrop of these little English villages and kind of under the watchful eye of the church always. So this story was kind of my take on a Cornish tale.
All right.
Okay.
Full screen you here.
Okay. The wind had gnawed his skin raw by the time they reached the nun's door. The damp air sunk deep into his bones. A warm orange glow leaked out of the small cottage into the night. While his daughter bounced about in front of him, immune to winter's bite, he had spread his hand out on the door. There, briefly. Not warmth, but a respite from the cold. Then he shook himself straight and crushed the ice out of his mustache. He wasn't here for respite. He was here so that he would never need respite again. He pulled Maisie in front so she could dart through the door as soon as the nun opened it. "Righty, girl," he said. "Be good now, here." The child was babbling to herself. She didn't even look at him. Instead, she careened a whitish lump about in the air. It was a bit of china clay covered in silt that had left streaks all over her hands. And, now that he looked closer, the sleeves of her best dress. And after he'd specifically made the wife wash her up. "Creep, creep, creep," she chirped and tried to march the clay over his coat cuff. "Maisie, enough!" He jerked his arm back before it could leave marks on his Sunday suit. He tried to grab it out of her hand, but she twisted away. Her toady eyes bulged further as she laughed. He unclenched his jaw with some effort. Very well. Let her keep her muck, along with that nose and those teeth and that hair. The fact of the matter was, washing wasn't the problem. His only child would be plain no matter how coarse the brush. "There'd better be hope for you," he muttered, and rapped the door 3 times. Behind him, the sea roared. No one denied the nun was an odd one. She wore the robes of a nun, but not the wimple. She never bothered anyone, but the sexton refused to call her sister. She even had the occasional sweet for a village child. But most importantly, she had the touch. The nun edged open the door. As if on cue, a fierce gale tackled father and daughter from behind. He braced one boot inside the warped doorway, as if for balance. "Sorry, so sorry, sister, to barge right in. Maisie," he hissed, "go on." And the girl shimmied obediently. The nun gaped, but moved quickly into the gap to block the child from wriggling in. "Was I not clear?" the nun snapped. "I said no." He'd never been this close to her. When she'd refused him twice before, he thought her a stubborn, even for an old nag. But now, up close, she wasn't as worn as he'd remembered. Indeed, her black eyes were large and comely, if spaced strangely far apart. "Hello," the child said with a bright smile. He tried to press her forward, but her shoulders were well wedged between the door and its frame. She wiggled one arm free and waved at the nun's face as vigorously as if she'd been across the Thames rather than squished against her skirts. "May we come in, please?" Briefly, when she looked at Maisie, he thought he saw the nun flinch. "Please, sister," he said. "Twilight is long gone. Exposed like this at night? If nothing else, we must get out of this blistering wind. It is too bitter to turn around now, not without a temporary relief." He saw her hesitate. "Look at the child's fingers, bone white with cold." Or clay. "They'll never survive the walk back." Without quite meaning to, real desperation crept in. He thought of the wife, their plain cottage, their mean little meals. He thought of her fingers, bleeding from twisting dried kelp into logs for the fire. His own were barely sensible anymore after so many years hauling fish through icy water. Worst of all, there was no end. Another winter, another catch, another night steeped in the stench of fish. Is this what you want for your only child? He had demanded of his wife that night when she wept and begged him not to go. Don't you want better for her? You're a fool, the nun said finally, but she moved half a step back. Thanks.
Well, that's all we get. Okay. It's just like I get to listening, and then I'm like, oh, I've got to turn the mics back on.
Yeah. So when I was writing it, I was kind of thinking about parents and the choices they make, and whether it's better to make the right choice for the wrong reasons or the wrong choice for the right reasons. So I'll leave it at that.
That's a good question, and I don't think we ever know by the end of the story what the right choice was. So I like ones that end up in ambiguity like that. So what are you working on now?
I've actually been writing a lot of science fiction lately. My latest story is about a Métis woman in a future where most people are living on space stations and speak with universal translators. And so she's speaking Métis, and then the translator conks out, and she has to learn how to speak when no one else around her knows how to speak Métis. And meanwhile, there's other things mysteriously going wrong around the station. So that's
fascinating.
Yeah.
Really
so
awesome.
And is that short fiction?
It is. I'm working mostly on short fiction right now.
Am I correct in understanding from your bio, Kelsey, that you're an emerging writer? Because I mean, this piece that we were lucky enough to publish is just so fantastic, and I can't see anything but wonderful things in your writerly future.
This is my first publication, actually. So
that's remarkable.
Yeah. And then the story that I just shared a little bit about was just accepted by Analog Science Fiction and Fact. So that's going to be published sometime later this year.
I just see amazing things for your journey.
Well, thank you. And thanks so much for having me. This was great.
Oh, that's so awesome that you were here and that you're able to make it. And, we do miss doing our in-person launches, but it's so great that we can have people from across the country and continent and across the world come and join our launches. So yeah, it's awesome.
Absolutely.
So we're going to do another door prize now. I'll leave you on screen, Kelsey.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
And oops. So let's see. I've lost my door prize thread here. Where are we?
I see a Frankie arc on the list.
What's that?
I see a Frankie arc.
Yes. So this one is the winner of this door prize will receive an advanced reading copy of The Extra by Mel Anastasiou. And it is number 9, Bonnie Jacoby. Congrats, Bonnie. So if you contact Melissa on Discord, she'll find out where we can send that. And as well, Kirsten, you can find Melissa on the Discord channel and get in touch, and they'll collect your email addresses so we can send you your copy of issue 32. And Bonnie, the Frankie arc won't be there for a while, but it's almost ready. It's getting close.
And it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. All right, I am going to bring our feature author on now, and we didn't have a chance to sound check. So Dan, can you hear us?
Sure.
You're muted, but
can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, great.
All right. Kelsey, I'll take you off. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you, Kelsey.
So yeah, we were absolutely thrilled to get a short story submitted by renowned Canadian poet Dan MacIsaac. Jen, do you want to give us a little bit of Dan's bio there? Oh, and his book.
I don't have a cat, so I put an auk instead on the cover of my book.
Dan writes from, sorry? You wanted to put a cat on the cover?
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Cat on the cover, Dan?
Yeah, when we were wrestling between different animals, including bison, but ended up with an auk.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful.
Well,
collection.
there's a little bit of a pun there between auk and arc. So
Dan writes from Chosen, BC, which, if I understand correctly, is that near Victoria?
Yes, between Victoria and Super.
Nice. His short stories have appeared in many journals in the UK, Canada, and the US. His fiction has been shortlisted for the CBC Short Story Prize, and Brick Books published his poetry collection, prize from New York, in, is it 2019?
Thereabouts, yes.
When was it published, Dan?
Or 2017, I think.
Yeah.
Sometime in the previous decade. So Dan, can you tell us a little bit about the feature story for this issue, Crossroads?
Sure. Crossroads is about a small town on Vancouver Island. I grew up in Nanaimo, which back then it was a small town, and it was well known for having, this is pre-bathtub race days, it had more bars than churches. And my mother was raised in the Comox Valley, in Merville, where she had the trauma of having to sell flowers at a roadside stand. This story is really about the narrow minds and wide-eyed wonders that you find in small towns. In small towns, there's really two types of mills. There's sawmills and rumor mills. And both of them cut up stuff. So maybe I should launch into the story itself.
That's a great introduction for that. I wish we'd thought of that line.
Yeah. That might appear on a future blog post.
Crossroads. In 1925, people hustled to keep up with all the mudslinging and mud raking, and everybody up and down the valley was quick to pass that dirt on to the next keen listener. No wonder the whole valley figured they knew all about Marta Toth playing around. That kind of woman wouldn't stay penned up in the woods between the mountains and the sea. In the beer parlor, some of the boozers called her the town pump, though they didn't dare mouth that slur when her man, the slope-shouldered, lug-knuckled logger, Adam Wainwright, was within earshot. Downing a logger, his boot heels hooked into the brass footrail. Sure, Adam never churched her, and she'd never had a child by him. Still, people hissed that she was a cheater all the same. They all just knew Adam had no clue about Marta's flings. But not even the most hopped-up Comox Valley tattler had the gumption to tip him off. They'd all hush around Adam when he'd stride by the open window of Tilly's tea shop, where the finest towny matrons huddled around the lacy tables, or when in the Quarterway pub, he'd shove his way up to the bar top, cluttered with beefy elbows and chunky beer glasses. By noon of the day after Marta first showed up on the public dock, she'd been tarred and feathered with fibs and perjuries by the scandalmongers in the valley. The busybodies figured they had all they needed to learn about the new arrival on the night ferry. The scuttlebutt had come right out of the crooked mouth of Merle Bartram, the docker. Bartram had the whole morning to rouse the most notorious tongue waggers, And these tongue waggers stuffed a bug swarm of lies into the town's collective ear that the logger, on leave from camp, had crossed over to the mainland to go on a tear. They eagerly passed on the sworn confidence from the dockhand about how Adam had let slip he'd met the young woman in Gastown and had talked her into keeping house for him instead of keeping bad company. Adam had paid her ferry ticket, plunked her down in the buckboard, and hauled her up to his cabin by the crossroads. Knowing that the logger had a woman now, not one gossiper was surprised to see Adam in the late afternoon stride across the creaky stoop crowded with ne'er-do-wells, slouching outside Proctor's General Store. With a woman, any kind of woman, in the home, he'd need to pick up supplies. Adam pressed through that bunch of loafers and dawdlers, not saying a word. The valley never heard the honest-to-God truth that Marta only turned mattresses for a living. Back-breaking hours she worked as a chambermaid in the Castle Hotel. That Granville Street establishment was where Adam had been staying while he scouted around the city for a lightly used McLaughlin touring car that had an engine he could tinker with. Adam was a saver, but not a cheapskate, frugal, but also forward-looking. He had money in his pocket to spend on the right vehicle for the right price. It made no sense to keep hitching horseflesh to a buckboard if you wanted to get somewhere in good time. Unlike most everybody from the valley, Adam minded his own beeswax, and his contact with the bustling chambermaid would have stayed at just a swap of nods in the top floor hall. But he almost tripped over it as he was heading out the back way from the hotel to stretch his legs before bed. He didn't like crowds, so he'd avoided the lobby exit. There was a lot of kerfuffle outside on Granville Street, with an unruly audience flooding out of the Orpheum Theatre after the late show. On the rough cement right outside the rear door of the hotel lay the chambermaid, kinked like a spot prawn. A thuggish man in a torn shirt leaned over the woman, stumbled back, then lurched forward, spewing a cataract of obscenities. Adam reached out and up to grasp the thug's massive left shoulder. "Bugger off," snarled the brute, eyes flat and hard as rivets. Thank you.
That was wonderful, Dan. I love your use of language in that. That's just so evocative.
Thank you.
And just such excellent word choices. Just the cataract of obscenities, kinked like a spot prawn. It's just wonderful. And it's not an easy story. It's not a nice, pleasant, fun story, but you tell it so well, and we feel we're right there back in old BC.
Yes, and from the early excerpt too, you can't really determine that Marta actually is extremely tough.
Yeah.
The way it starts out, it sounds like she's a victim, and she certainly refuses to be.
Oh yeah, she's anything but that. Yeah.
So it was hard to choose what excerpt to use.
Yeah, it's true.
But I felt that starting from the beginning was the appropriate place to start. Yes.
Yeah, no, that was lovely. So what are you working on now?
Well, I'm working on a group of stories, companion ones to this piece, but it's taking me a long time because of my day job. It's very consuming. So yeah, hopefully I'll have a collection of pulp mill fiction, you could call it.
Great.
I got to ask, Dan, did you ever go to the bathtub races parades?
Oh, yes.
Down in downtown Nanaimo?
Yeah, and one of the riots, too.
Oh.
When I was a teenager. Yeah, where Mayor Frank Ney read out the Riot Act. Those are the thing is, everybody knew everybody, so it wasn't difficult to identify the rabble rousers. The difficult part is one of the rabble rousers, for example, was the son of a prominent criminal lawyer who later became a provincial court judge. So in a small town, a riot doesn't work very well for the.
Sounds like there's a story in there.
I think there's lots of fodder in there for stories. And for our listeners around the world who may not know, Nanaimo, BC is famous for two things, one of which is Nanaimo bars, which many people have known about, but the other is the bathtub races, which are, an annual, just Google it.
Google it.
All right. Oh, thank you so much for showing up and reading that wonderful story. And I really encourage everyone to pick up the issue and read it for yourself because it's fabulous. So that's Dan MacIsaac with Crossroads. We're going to do another prize draw. And come on, people, you've got to get your names in there. There are things to be won. So what's up next on our list, Jen? What's our next prize?
Scroll up here. It is the Stella Bundle.
Stella Bundle. So that is digital copies of Stella Ryman and the Fairmount Manor Mysteries, The Labors of Mrs. Stella Ryman, and the third book, which is coming out early 2022 or not. We don't quite have a date yet, but when that comes out, you will receive that as well. So, and that goes to number 4, Adrian Stevenson. So Adrian, touch base with Melissa in the Discord chat, and she will gather your email address, and we will send you those books. You'll get the first 2 right away, and then you'll just have to wait a little bit for the third one. All right. Bring you off stage, Dan. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And what I'm going to do is, we just had a number of authors who couldn't make it today. And I was just going to go and read through the first paragraph of all their stories. Unless, Jen, do you want to read some? Do you want to take turn?
I would, but I'm preparing to introduce you. Am I not?
Okay. I'll solo lay out myself then. All right. So the first one I'm going to read from is Ghost Walking by Mel Anastasiou. And for those who've been following along Pulp literature, she's done the Stella Ryman series. She's done the Extra. She's done the Spencer Stevens Hertfordshire Pub Mysteries. This is a new one. It's a bit of a mystery, but it's more of a ghost story. And it's set in the 1970s on Bowen Island. And it starts like this. The ferry boat rocked along sunlit Howe Sound waters on course for Bowen Island. It carried a full load this afternoon in early July. On the car deck, doors slammed and children raced in and out among the vehicles. Up here on the sunshine deck, foot passengers milled about and craned at the shoreline and mountains. Jenny Riley looked back. Her determined departure from university life via this crowded ferry boat was entirely different from the way Joey had left the world. In the rain, at night, slipping out of her arms while gasoline pooled through shattered windshield glass into the weeds by the road. So that's not an enticing start to a story. I don't know what is. And that's a story I have to confess that I've read most of, but I'm really looking forward to it coming out more in Pulp Lit. The next one we have is by Zandra Renwick. I think it's pronounced Renwick. I'm not sure. So Zandra's an editor and writer based out of Ottawa. And she's given us the most stomach-turning story we've ever had, I think is probably safe to say. This one's called Just Another Date Night on the Highway Out of Town. This girl Spider brought along on what he and I have been calling our weekly double date Hell Night is so annoying because she's saying stuff like, of course I love pizza as much as everybody else, but is it gluten-free? So I'm looking at Spider sitting across from me in this raggy, sliced-up Naugahyde booth in the back of what everybody on campus knows is the rankest late-night date highway pizza dive in creation, and I'm thinking, Spider, dude, it's a fact we're still friends despite you cheating on me like 2 years ago and me dumping your squeaky ass, but I know what you've got down those baggy pants of yours, and nothing is even close to gluten-free. Then I think, maybe it's all moot because his sad, gluten-y man bits never do actually pass her lips. And then I start thinking, joke's on you, Spider. I may not be half as pretty as this girl, but at least I always prided myself on giving decent reciprocal tit for what was, to be fair, your enthusiastic and sometimes not uncreative tact. And that's probably the story gets much more intense from there. Let's just say. There are eyeballs involved. And then also sort of in a gory vein, but a more sort of lyrical version, we have Come Back Around by Serena Bosco. This one was a finalist in, I think it was the Hummingbird, or the last year's Raven contest. It was a finalist, or shortlisted. And she also had a story, Soul Making, way back when issue 10 of Pulp, which was a Beauty and the Beast tale. This one's quite different, called Come Back Around. When the deer starts talking, it's too far gone. The ankles are tied, hanging from a pine tree, dead from the bottom up. The blood in the bucket below, where the body hangs, is steaming in the evening air. He's even sliced the stomach open, all of the organs wet and exposed, but that doesn't stop the voice that comes out of that long, lithe throat covered in tawny hair. I just want to go to the hickory tree, said so quietly that the hunter almost doesn't hear. And then you have to read more to find out why that dead deer is talking. And then we have Solstice by Melissa Nielsen. This one was the runner-up in the Bumblebee Flash Fiction Contest this year. And Melissa couldn't be here. I believe she's listening in your car. So hi, Melissa, wherever you are. And it starts like this. Every winter, some star-crossed vagrant finds themselves at our stoop. Sometimes snowblind, usually numb with hypothermia. They cry when we open the door. Mother peels away their icy clothes. I fetch the warmest quilts, and little brother puts bricks on the fire. So poetic, also a little bit creepy. And then we were hoping to have David Perlmutter here today, but he doesn't seem to have made it on to Discord or StreamYard. So he's written something in completely different vein. It's called The Canadian Invasion. I'm going to show you the illustration that Mel drew for that and see if any of you are old enough to get that reference. And it starts like this. John Lemon. The weirdest part about it all was that we were so popular, eh? Thing is, none of us meant to become stars. We were just after playing some rock and roll and trying to make a living after doing it, eh? And me, I probably needed the companionship more than the others, given how I was raised up. You see, Toronto on the map, it don't look like a big place, but it's right big enough to disappear and never come out. I got brought up in Etobicoke, which is about as far as you can get and still be in the city. It wasn't the greatest thing, what with my mother out in the psych ward downtown. She went nuts when I was little and never got better. My only aunt to raise me. So I grew up finding only two things exciting me. The hockey games on radio on Saturday. Naturally, I was always for the Leafs. And then when I was in my teens, this newfangled rock and roll came on the scene. None of the local stations would play it because at the start, Toronto was such a conservative place. But I could get a good signal on my transistor to the American stations that did play it out in Buffalo and Detroit. Sometimes, on a clear night, I could get WINS from New York City and hear Alan Freed's show. That guy forgot more about rock than most people knew. It really turned me on. Next thing you know, I got a guitar and learned how to play, and then I started hanging out in what passed for the music scene on Yonge Street in those days. That's how I ended up starting what eventually became the Beavers. So some of you, like I said, are old enough to recognize what that's a riff on. And then, there's still more. And we also had, like I said before, Robin Malcolm was going to read for us, which I applaud her for, but she can't today. But this is My Name is Philomena. It's the winner of the Surrey International Writers Conference Storytellers Award. We publish that in the magazine every year. We published her 2 years ago in the autumn 2019 issue, which with her story, The Bumblebee's Daughter, which was about the resistance in France during the Second World War. This one is also slightly historical. Well, it is historical, but slightly closer. It's set in Seattle. It's called My Name is Philomena. In the days of the trapping old-timers and prospecting gold miners, when Seattle was a boomtown full of timber barons drinking beside lumberjacks, when scoundrels were as thick as flies and even upstanding citizens were known to rot like meat in the sun, there was a girl who did not know her name. That girl was me. I rather like to think it might be something fancy like Anastasia or Katerina, but it did not matter because nobody ever addressed me by name. The crooked fur trader spat girl through his rotten teeth when he was sober and nothing at all when he wasn't. Prior to his moldy cabin under the undergrowth forest, I have no memory at all. Later, those who recognized my face upon their fair streets sometimes called me Otter Girl for the sea otter pelt I wore around my neck. I did not like this title. I was quick to plant my feet and raise my voice to correct them. My name is Beatrice, I told the shopkeeper who gave me scraps from his dinner table in exchange for sweeping the walk each day. And I am Alberta, I told the laundress who chased me from her sheltered doorway. And I'll let you read that. And I have to say that this story is very heartwarming and very sweet and a nice antidote to some of the gorier parts of the book. So thank you for that, Robin. And I know, Jen, you were going to introduce me, but I'm just going to continue on so that we can get to our Raven finalists. So as usual, I have a story in this as well, and it's a continuation of The Shepherdess. And all you really need to know is the main character is a shepherdess who has gone to the city to make her way in the world and been taken in as a maid. Then after becoming embroiled with some ne'er-do-wells, she and her mistress have flown to Versailles from Paris, and they are now setting up court in Versailles. Antoinette, because her mistress is ill, is having to pose as the sister of a chevalier in the court of Versailles in the 1600s. The queen was a tiny woman whose feet rested on a gilded footstool beneath the stiff skirts of her old-fashioned Spanish-style dress. With a minuscule silver fork, she plucked a morsel from a bowl of coquille Saint-Jacques at her side and slipped it between fleshy lips. She put down the fork with deliberate care and at last motioned me forward. I approached, curtsied, and willed my stomach not to revolt at the smell of seafood. The ground oyster shell that Madame had dusted over my face tickled my nose, and the cochineal on my lips doubled my inclination to sneeze. I bit my lip to stop the sneeze, and the taste of rouge nearly made me vomit instead. Michel had already made the introduction, so there was nothing I needed to say as the little queen appraised me. She addressed her questions to him. Is she skilled with the needle? She approached it agual with her Spanish accent, so I barely understood her. Michel cleared his throat. I believe the sisters valued her work in the garden above all. She eyed me again. Odd work for the daughter of a noble family. I responded before Michel could dig me further into a hole out of which I would not be able to clamber. The herb and flower gardens, Your Majesty, I said, mimicking Michel's accent as best I could. I make creams of healing salves. I could at least make a balm for you with a sore udder. Powders and colors for the faces and hands of noble ladies. Another partial truth. But how hard could it be to grind up seashells and add pigments to my lanolin mixtures? She sniffed. A young lady should be taught to sew, to sing, and to dance. Indeed, Your Majesty, interjected Michelle, which is why, with the passing of our beloved parents and her education falling to me, I have brought her here for the improvement of her mind and soul. Marie-Thérèse extended a beringed hand. I shall contemplate it, Chevalier. I took the childlike fingers and kissed the air above them as Michelle had instructed, noticing the redness of the knuckles and the chafing where the rings bit into flesh. I could fix that, I thought, given half the chance. After we had left Her Majesty, Michelle remarked, "That did not go as badly as it might have." She seemed unimpressed. He shrugged. Her Majesty is unimpressed with life. Contemplate rather than a simple no is a good sign. Now, we return to your apartments so you can refresh your toilette. The Duchesse d'Orléans is next. The king's sister-in-law was even more difficult to parse. German was her first language, and her speech was animated, unlike the careful sentences of the queen. Also, unlike the queen, she showed keen interest in my professed skills. "My dear, your skin is as fresh as a shepherdess's," she exclaimed, leaning towards me with a pair of spectacles on a long stick. "And no cracks. How do you compound your ceruse?" "Madame," I replied, "I never use ceruse," which was truthful enough. "It dulls the skin and deadens the senses. Instead, a cream made of," I hesitated, realizing where my worth lay, "rare, nourishing ingredients, dusted over with special powder." No need to tell her the powder could be found in the kitchen waste. I had momentum now, and my tongue got ahead of me. "As well as tonics taken internally will give your skin the pastoral glow you crave." That part was not true at all. Spend time in pastures, and your skin will turn as brown as a walnut, which is why I no longer did. "Wunderbar!" exclaimed the Duchess. "You shall bring me these tomorrow. Enough for Philippe as well. He wears far too much makeup. His skin is a wreck." "Madame," I stammered, "I will happily bring you what I can, but my supplies are low." I took a deep breath. "A week to brew tonic and make fresh creams." She made a mock pout. "Well, then, I shall be patient. We will be great friends, you and I think." I held my breath as I left. A week I had to invent a tonic and extricate myself from this new trap I'd walked into.
I know that we spend so much time with these issues, and we go into the stories and out of the stories and into the stories, and we're so immersed, but I have to say it was really delightful to sit back and have you give us a taste of each of those other ones, because I love what we do at the magazine and I love all of the issues and all of the stories, but to just have them all kind of smushy, all their different, I just love it. It was awesome. Thank you.
Well, we are a smorgasbord or
Yes.
a wine tasting board or a beer
Yes.
tasting board. So.
Yes. And some of the stories are tastier than others. I don't think I would sample too many of the treats in this issue.
But they're still good.
They're so good.
So creepy and so good, some of them.
So creepy. And of course, like we read these stories in so many different ways at so many different levels through the publication process. And it's just such a delight to have it come to fruition. Every issue, it's just such a delight. But yeah.
All right. Well, it is almost time to announce the long list for the Raven contest.
Mm-hmm.
But first, we have a special treat, and we have the Raven contest judge with us here today. So welcome, Leo.
Hiya. Good to see you
Hi,
again.
how are you?
Yeah, good. It's been a while, right? But yeah.
So Jen, do you want to tell us a bit about Leo?
I would love to. Leo is a Scottish process engineer. I still don't know what that means. Writer and filmmaker, currently living in, I believe it's pronounced Stavanger, Norway. Did I get it? His first pulp literature appearance was Snapshots in issue 22. And we were so lucky to publish Bar Hopping for Astronauts in issue 30. I believe, Leo, you've got 2 novellas out this year, The Grimhaven Disaster and The Glow with Aurelia Leo, and a new horror feature film, Burnt Portraits, that takes place entirely in the creepy basement of a local art studio. And I think, was it noted at a festival? Did I see that correctly?
It was world premiere. We flew to York in the UK and saw it on the big screen.
Awesome.
This is very cool. Yeah.
Been a busy year for you, Leo.
Yeah, getting a lot done in the home office. Yeah. And lots of process engineering, of course, but let's leave
Yes,
that
all
aside.
that process engineering. And I understand you've got a new project.
Oh yeah. So we did another film in the summer called Face Boy. So we had such a great time making the film in this basement of this building that there was also a really cool attic that nobody was in. So we're like, okay, we got to make another whole film in the attic. So that's what we did. But actually, it caught the attention of this local production company that I was just too afraid to talk to. But they saw the trailer and were like, oh, we really are interested in what you're doing because you're not pursuing any funding or anything. You're just making stuff with what's available. So I think our films are coming up with their own kind of unique style as a result, and we're having a great time.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That is awesome.
We're glad you made some time for the Ravens, or you're yet to make the time for them.
absolutely. No, I'm so looking forward to it. I'm super honored. Can't wait to see what you've picked out, and yeah, just really excited. And it's a real privilege to be on this side of the publisher's acceptance process.
So just to be clear, we're only reading out names of the long-listed authors, no titles, because we need to make sure that the judging stays blind. So just to make sure everybody knows that.
Yeah. So you will receive the stories soon, but you won't know whose story belongs to who, and you'll be receiving the short list, and so it won't be the full selection of the long list that we give you.
Right.
So, but first of all, would you like to give us a bit of your novella?
Yes, I would. So this is The Glow that's coming out later. Not really sure, but soon enough. Yes, and so this is it's a sci-fi novella, near future. A young woman suspects that her sister has been taken in by this weird cult, and they have their headquarters on this island of plastic garbage that they built in the sea as part of their, mankind's going to ruins, and we're making this big statement about it. And anyone who's ever gone there has never managed to come back. But this woman is so distraught, she really wants to find her sister again. She's going to give it a go. So I'm going to read you a section where she just explains the background of what's going on and what her mission is. Yeah.
Wonderful.
The glow got our attention when a meteorite landed on their island. There's footage of it, a rainbow streak in the night sky, a flash of white light like burning magnesium landing on that jagged, painful-looking mass of plastic. As far as anyone could tell, the island didn't melt, nor did the meteorite drop through its base. Why not? Wasn't the island plastic after all? Rookie journalists flew their drones out to the island, but marksmen standing atop the island's plastic towers slung the drones into the sea with fishing rods. Truthers set up blogs of blurry GIFs that noted angles of approach, terminal velocities, tenuous connections between apparent shapes, and the usual suspect shadow organizations. In my less proud evenings, subdued by the mash of kratom leaves lodged in my cheek, I'd spend hours browsing these sites, gleaning and collating anything remotely resembling evidence. Whenever I did understand what the bloggers were talking about, I could tell it was wrong. But it resonated with me all the same. I was on their weirdo wavelength. The intent of their sites amused me more than the content. I asked the same questions that fueled their misguided curiosities. The idea that everything I saw was the extent of reality was far more terrible than any truther's proposal, no matter how outlandish. How reassuring it would be to discover at least that yes, there are secrets, even if I'd never know what they were. I remained skeptical, but conspiracy theorists kept convincing themselves that some alien intelligence had selected the glow to be the vanguard of its cosmic secrets. The island appeared on the news each night, a floating neon kraken lit up by a bioluminescent phytoplankton lighting system, gentle pinks and purples that pulsed like an engorged extraterrestrial heart. Something had landed there and changed everything, but the glow would never let us know what it was. I so badly wished this was nothing more than curious office banter for me, that I could pontificate on theories with pure objectivity. But Joanna was gone, and I had reason to suspect that she was on the island, dining on Venusian grapes, banging on an octopus skin tambourine, and praying to Cthulhu. Tomorrow I'd go there and find out if she was. There you go.
Oh, wow. I definitely want to hear more.
Cool. That's...
So, Jen, would you like to read out the long list or shall I?
I would love to read out the long list.
All right.
Okay. So these are alphabetical by the author's last name, to the best of my alphabetization skills at pretty late at night. So we have on the long list, Alex Reese Abbott, Rosie Arcane, Kimberly Ashby, Sora Mimi Hanarajima, Debbie Hopsink Borst. That sounded dramatic. Did we play a piano? Laura Coleman, Kirsten Ma for 2 stories, Cadence Mandibura, Sean Melrose Okima, Alana or Elena Rigby, Stephen A. Rodwig, Kevin Sandifer, Micah Silber, Alan Sinsick, Alexis Stavanovich Thompson, Adrian Stevenson for 2 stories, PG Streeter, Hannah Van Didden, Steve Wade, Katie Wagner, Emil Wood, and Kelty Zubko.
Congratulations to all those writers. There's some familiar names in that list, so congrats again, and some new names that I haven't heard before, so that's awesome. So we will be getting going through those and getting a short list to you within the next little while. And
fantastic. Looking forward to reading the stories. Yeah,
there's some good ones in there. All right. Well, we are going to bring, for the last section, we're going to bring our poets and the winner of the Magpie Award this year, as well as the judge. So I'm going to bring all the poets on. So I'll say goodbye and thanks for showing up, Leo. It's late at night there,
Leo.
I know.
It was so good to see you.
It is.
Great to see you both as well. Fantastic. I'm going to bed.
All right. Good night.
Great.
And let's bring, first of all, we'll bring Renee Sacklikar, who is our Magpie judge, onto the screen. And there we have Francis Boyle and David Barrick. And Francis was our winner of the Magpie contest, and David Barrick was a runner-up. A little feedback here. I think that's coming from you, David. So I'll keep you muted for a sec. And then Aldona Dziedziejko couldn't be here, but she sent a recording, which I'm going to try to play. But first of all, I'm going to hand the mic over to you, Renee. So thank you again for being our judge, and I'll let you say a few words about the story, about the poems.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. Congratulations to Pulplet on your beautiful autumn launch. Congratulations to all the writers and artists in this fabulous issue. And of course, to the poets, all of whom who submitted, and especially those who won. Huge congrats. So I thought maybe what I would do is just read, shall I read my comments for first prize, second prize, or would you like me to read my comments for first, second, third, honorable mention all at once? Or how would you like me to do it?
Oh, I hadn't thought that far.
Like, would you like me to maybe read the title and comments to the first prize, and then we'll hear from the first prize winner, and then I'll read after that person has finished, then I will read the second prize, and then have the second prize winner read? Are those the two poets who are with us? Because of course I blind judged.
You blind judge. Well, actually, we don't have the second runner-up with us. Mm-hmm. That was Aldona. Okay. But why don't you read your comments for her, and I will try to play the audio clip.
Okay. So I'm just going to clarify. I've titled them first prize, second prize, third prize, and honorable mention.
Oh, and honorable mention is going to be turning up in the next issue. So
okay. So I get to be back. Yay. Okay, well, I'm going to. So do we have the first prize winner with us, I believe?
Yes, that is Frances. Wave, Frances.
Oh, congratulations, Frances.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And do we have the third prize winner with us?
No, Aldona is not. We have second prize with us.
Oh, that's David Barrett. Yeah. Oh, wow.
I'll try unmuting you now, David.
Thank you.
A lot of
this is so exciting.
You're so welcome, but so much static from your mic. So we'll maybe mute David until we're ready to hear from him.
Yeah. Oh, apologies.
No worries. You can maybe think about that while I'm talking. So what I will do, with no further ado, is I will read the title of the poem and my comments, and then maybe we'll hear the poet read. Is that correct? Our wonderful host, I'll just check.
I think that sounds good.
All right. Woohoo! Here we go. One of my favorite things to do. And I want to really commend Pulp Lit for your professionalism, of course. I really am a fan of blind judging. It's a small community in poetry, larger thanks to Pulp Lit, where its scope is greater than just Canada. But so often you might know the publisher or the poet, and it's great to blind judge. And you have a fabulous team at Pulp Lit that does the vetting and then forwards to me the finals. And I just want to really give a shout out to all of you. You're so professional in every way. So no further ado, first prize went to Another True Account of the Nature of Grit and How It May Be Ascertained. Here's what I said. It's the voice of a strong female lead that won it. Kind of slightly Cockney tones. It's the voice of a strong female lead that won it. Plus skilled handling of line breaks and stanza construction, ensuring the imaginative narrative flowed easily. I particularly enjoyed the enjambment between stanzas, the way the lines moved between the poem's paragraphs or stanzas, as well as the way all of this worked on both grammatical and narrative levels. So the poem for me, as I read it as the judge, performed as a narrative ballad, a historical review, and a radio play all at the same time. What a rattling, great read. Woo!
Thank you so much, Renee, for those wonderful words and for judging and for choosing the poem. Just a bit of context for it. As a teenager, I had read about a movie coming out way back in the day called True Grit, and I was especially interested that there was a girl protagonist around my age, so I tracked down the book. And I was really intrigued by Charles Portis's style, and probably the first time I noticed craft in reading a book. Maddie is a backcountry girl, but she has a very formal manner, and the way he got it across is by having her not use any contractions in her speech. So I love the book. Fast forward several decades, and if I can mention another publication, Contemporary Verse 2 has an annual contest to write a poem in 2 days. One of the words was grit, which took me right back to True Grit, and I wrote the poem. It didn't win the CV2 contest, but after some years and a bunch of revisions, I did win the Magpie, for which I'm super grateful. And it's also a bit of a seasonal poem in tone with the kind of creepy theme, because in the poem, Matty is no longer alive. So, another true account of the nature of grit and how it may be ascertained. The world and heaven itself bring me back to this story, writ in my hand with plain spoken probity, and I hope a certain humility. My name is Matty Ross, and I speak to take a leaf from my own book of the time when I, only 14 years of age, set off for Choctaw Nation in the snow, bound to avenge the blood of my father, shot by Tom Cheney. I called him coward and trash, and no truer words were ever told of a man. When I had departed from earth, Mr. Charles Portis took up what I had written, published it as his own. True Grit, he called the book. God-fearing woman and girl I watched from this celestial vantage place, not so very much lovelier after all than Mount Magazine in the Blue Mountains near my home, highest point in the whole of Arkansas. I felt no shame to have, after so much time, my journey laid out for viewing. A tale kept under wraps becomes, as they say, etiolated, a scrawny, twisted stem, pinworm white, you might find beneath a thick piece of dogwood bark fallen, where new bean plants struggle to break earth. No, for bringing my story to the light, I would surely have welcomed Mr. Charles Porteous any time to my table with the kindest courtesy I could conjure. But sorrow to say, I have few good words for the moving picture show that called itself True Grit, and one Mr. John Wayne play-acting U.S. Marshal Cogburn, known as Rooster. Mr. Cogburn had been christened Reuben, a fine name, regretfully I ascertained, only as I paid for each letter inscribed on his headstone, along with dates to mark his birth and his death. I say now, as I have said before, despite the thirst he would too often slake and his penchant for taking the Lord's name in vain, Reuben Cogburn had grit. Mr. Wayne, who tells me his name at birth was Marion, is a good man, though his flicker form had not the true aspect of Marshal Cogburn. But I heard tell just the other day, news comes slow here sometimes, that another photoplay of my quest for justice is being crafted. Its makers, two brothers, not Christians by their family name, but well thought of. I will hold but faint hope that the grit that spurred us through dire exploits will show in the means of their new players. But know that the recounting of how I rode with lawmen to avenge my father is not the story of Rooster Cogburn, but of me, Mattie Ross, Yell County, Arkansas. I do not boast of my gifts or learning, or even less of my features and face, by all accounts plain indeed. The girl in that first film show was a pretty little thing. The snake bite did not take her arm, as it did mine, leaving me to live by wits, my piety, and my resolve. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so fabulous. I get chills.
It
I
is.
really do. Wowsy wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just love that poem. I mean, I remember that movie when it came out too.
Yeah, and like, I'm not a fan of John Wayne. He had some qualities, but you know, and then the whole thing about Westerns and all the things with Aboriginals. And I thought that you just wove her voice so true. And the fact that it's a ghost. Anyway, we could just talk about it all afternoon. You read it sensationally too. Huge congratulations.
Oh,
Take a bow. It's
thank you
fabulous.
so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frances.
All right. So now, Ms. JM and Ms. Genevieve, shall we move on to our next prize winner?
Yes, please do.
All right. And I'm just going to confirm that's for Mammal Mouth. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is that right?
I actually, honestly, I don't know which.
Okay.
I think we just do two. We do two runners up, so we don't know whether they're first or second. So.
Okay. So I'm going to ask David, what was the title of your poem?
Oh, sorry. It's I've got it muted. So
It's
Mammal
recurrent dream number 79.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So I'm so glad I asked. So the winner of the second prize is for Recurrent Dream number 79. And again, total blind judging. It was such a hard call. I read first and second prize so much. And, you know, they're fabulous poems. Here's what I said about Recurrent Dream number 79. Wonderful poem. Reminiscent of poems in John Berryman's fabled Dream Song sequence and Stanley Kunitz's The Testing Tree, two of my all-time favorite poems. High praise indeed for Recurrent Dream number 79. It's one stanza, 5 perfectly balanced sentences constructed over 27 lines, impeccable grammar, precise line breaks. I loved how the first line neatly frames the question posed in the last line, and the way the title itself embeds the answer, not to mention the gorgeous imagery. Oh, congratulations, David. I'm going to mute myself, and hopefully some of that sound we're hearing in the background on your thing will go, and you just read this glorious poem. Big kudos, big props to you.
Thank you so much, Renee. Is my sound okay?
Your sound's
Okay.
great now. We're not getting any of that feedback.
Oh, good, good. And thank you, Francis, for that beautiful reading of your poem. It was fantastic. Yeah. So recurrent dream number 79, if I can give just a bit of context, it's part of a sequence of dream poems, recurrent dream poems that I've been working on that are part of a larger collection. My first full-length collection titled Nightlight, which will be published in spring 2022 with Palimpsest Press. And what a lot of these poems do is take sort of a slant approach to anxieties that might not be present in sort of your conscious thought all the time, but they sort of inform the way that you go about living. And I find that by taking the premise of a recurrent dream as a way of storytelling through poetry, it's allowed me to address topics that I might not otherwise write about. And some of the anxieties are related to, I think, the sort of social economic situation and the global crises that we're dealing with, but also some of them just come back to childhood anxieties, which I think inform a lot of the fears, the more adult fears that we might have. So I'm very happy to read this poem for you. Recurrent dream number 79. At my birthday party, I play hide and seek in the Muskoka woods. Ollie, ollie, oxen free, I call, bears and badgers ducking under bushes, toadstools shriveling back into logs. I search burrows using a sparkler, but as dusk arrives, I've only found my own face, the yellowing lost child poster on lichen-covered trunks. You've gone too deep, whisper lines of patio lanterns, angling my eyes across the lake to stiff bodies left in slatted beach chairs. A Mark Hamill mask dangles on a camping lamp, ogling foliage with wind-cajoled eye-beams. The walnuts and pine cones and acorns wrapped with foil paper. Red fireworks inside the forest's thistle womb. Fledgling nightingales singing, "How old are you now?" Thank you.
That's so fabulous.
Thank you, David.
Beautifully read. Woo!
Thanks.
How can anybody be anything but so excited about poetry after listening to Renee?
Well, thank you. After listening to these poets that choose to submit to this contest, it's such a win-win-win all round for the publication. These fabulous people, Jean-Vive and J.M. Landels and Mel and everyone at Pulp-Lit. And of course, these poets, you have honored us with your skill and your beautiful readings. And I love, David, that you're working on a sequence as you, I think we're on social media together. I don't know. I think so. But I'm all about the long poem. And so both of these are quite longer poems. They're beautiful to look at. Get your issue of Pulp Lit so you can see them. And hey, thanks for letting me be part of this. And huge congrats to these poets.
Renee, would you like to read out the other comments, because we do have a recorded, we have a recording from Aldona. She did read the poem.
Okay. I don't know which one is hers. I'm just going to
be Mammal Mouth.
Mammal Mouth. Okay. Yeah. I'll read the comments from Mammal Mouth and then maybe we'll hear her recording.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. My great honor to do so. here's what I said about the third prize poem, Mammal Mouth. And Aldona is one of my former students, so yay. A strange poem, one of my highest compliments, filled with fantastical images and interesting line breaks, coupled with strong verbs and lush sound. Let's hear the poem now.
Okay. All right, I am launching the player, and I hope this is going to work.
Mammal Mouth, Lunaria vulgaris. A poem written by Aldona, Dziedziejko. If God didn't want us to kiss animal mouths, why make them so exquisite? Vibrisy, whiskered velvet purses. Don't get me wrong, I don't believe in God, a sentient architect like that. But the logic speaks for itself here. It whispers, huffs, brushing its breath against bacteria, innervated fur, pink ham tongue, saliva. Look, here is another mouth, a waxy rind, lobed, glossed, head held low, slow woolly hedge sliding past our railing. Dogs steal scraps fallen under the house. The full worm moon this March makes me think of slithering, burying pupa in crumbling warm soil. How we still fear virons twisting in their envelopes. I call them diamond heads, like sugar crystals poured into our bodies, frothing, fomenting, seething in havoc. I hope that in the days of the sun, toad flax turn their faces up, yellow cheeks full of air. Our future is hungry, like a snapdragon, a growing lion's mouth or dead man's bones, taking root in lime soil. Somatosensory. It wants to take what you are made to give. Here in the north, we kiss river mouths for good luck. Ponds gobble up arsenic, spit out heart-shaped leaves like green muzzles, and the groundwater makes superheroes of the dying.
Woo, woo, woo. Isn't that lovely? You know, and it's titled Mammal Mouth, and she read it so beautifully, and all those fantastical images with the strong verbs. You guys are like, you winners, you're like a master class in what we can do in the poetry form. So,
And I don't know if you caught it in there. I don't know how well the sound came through, but you could hear her baby make a couple of noises in there, which is why she couldn't be with us today.
Oh, what a good reason. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was part of the effects of what she was doing. At first I was like, what is that? And then I thought, oh, this is her background thing. So,
but then there is also my dog who's
yes, I realized that as well.
All the chatty mammal mouths.
Exactly.
Yeah, very chatty mammal down
Renee,
there.
we didn't get much of a chance to introduce you properly. I do see something on your bookshelf behind you. Your latest, most epic creation. Would you please do us the honor of telling us a little bit about Brahma and the Beggar Boy?
Oh my goodness, I'm so honored. This is like the best afternoon at the Autumn Portal. I would love to. Perhaps I'll read one very short sonnet. How does that sound? Does that work?
That sounds lovely.
I'm going to just grab it. Actually, I've got my author copy right here. All right. I'm going to read a poem about the hero, Brahma. She's a time-traveling locksmith in a world of climate change, catastrophe, and global inequality. And it's an epic fantasy in verse, and it is long, and I'm just going to read you one sonnet from it, and thank you for the honor. This is about Brahma, overheard. Small, wiry, brown-skinned, yet British, sly, too quick, skilled with lock and key, long black hair, braids touching her leather pack sack, tools plus lasers, all the latest gadgets for openings, no lock that ever met her hands too tough or sticky. 1,000 scrapes she'd dodged them all. One soldier from the before time even called her Kalo. No one ever knew why, just laughed. She collected nicknames, light year to portal, them hard ones, April or June, the worst. In the nick of time, a turner of bad odds, her body on the line of any fire, her cheeks scarred. Smooth skin, though, and the softest lips. Tattoo on her arm, Ishmael Joe, and laughed. So that is a settler, cynical settler, gossiping at a village on Perlmutter's edge in this world I've built for Brahma and the Beggar Boy after a series of accelerated climate change catastrophes, including a biocontagion, a pandemic. And Brahma doesn't realize she's a semi-divine goddess. She's a working woman. She's a craftswoman. She's an apprentice, and she gets her locksmith ticket. And she hires herself out Robin Hood-like to the evil consortium, the mega globalist corporation that controls everything. And she gets her contracts to survive, and then she double crosses them to join with seed savers and resistance fighters, including orphans, including the Beggar Boy. I do hope you'll consider looking up Brahma and the Beggar Boy, widely available at local bookstores and online. And thank you for this opportunity. I'm honored. That's all.
Oh, thank you, Renee. Yes, it's a wonderful book. Do pick it up and read it.
And you can also pick up issue 28, where Renee was our feature author. And she has, her story in here is Man with Golden Helmet. So
yeah.
Oh, and the cover art. Can you hold up the autumn launch? The cover art of that one. And then this, your current one, do you have it hot off the presses?
Yep.
I love this cover art. And Dan MacIsaac is so awesome. So you guys, like, full props. And we have these gorgeous poets. And will David and Francis's poems appear in this issue? Or
they are in this issue, yes.
You got to get the autumn issue. Because with both of our winning poets, what they've done verbally and syntactically, the way the lines are in the page is pure magic. And then to hear you guys read them. Woo!
It is. It is. You can see the layout. I don't know if you can see that there, but it's just, it reads like an epic. That's Francis's, and Recurrent Dream is you really do have to see it on the page, because then you see how it loops. It's lovely.
Yes. Both of you are showing us your skill, and also you got some jam. Just like both of you gave us such a lovely read, both on the page and orally. And I think sometimes, I'm sure David and Francis understand, they're clearly very accomplished poets, and both of you, like, I think sometimes in our literary world, and this is what I love about Pulplet so much, in our literary world, we get kind of jejune about being enthusiastic and about reading with expression, especially as big brain intellectuals, right? There's a kind of nihilism. And if the pandemic has done anything, just speaking for myself, and what really led me to merge, I've got over 105 sonnets in here and lots of blank verse, et cetera, traditional forms with genre, epic fantasy, was this feeling of, I just wanted great stories and great characters. And both of you, in very different ways, both David and Francis have given us that. And it's such a credit to Pulplit. Man, you guys bring it with your writers. Yay!
Well, a shout out to our poetry editors.
Yes. Our poetry editors. We've got Emily and Dan, and they do a fabulous job of they generate the short list to send to Renee for the Magpie, and they read hundreds and hundreds of poems every year.
They're also one. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, David.
Daniel and Emily are also wonderful poets. Their work is amazing.
They are, yes.
They really are. And they have a little one as well.
They have two little ones.
Yes. So there we are. You guys are amazing. This is just like lovely. There's a lot going on still. It's still challenging times. I got a mom in long-term care, et cetera, et cetera. So this is really a beautiful event. Yeah.
Well, before you all go, I want to just do the last couple of door prizes. Go ahead, David. You were going to say something.
Oh, I just want to thank Renee again for your generous comments, and it was such an honor to be selected and such an honor to be published in pulp literature alongside Francis. It's fantastic, and I totally agree about the enthusiasm. It's just such a pleasure to hear all these great readers here, and to be able to read a poem is such a pleasure. So thank you so much for putting this event together and for everything.
Yes, ditto from me. Yes, for sure.
Well, thank you for coming, and thanks to all our authors who read today. We just lost Jen. I don't know if her internet dropped or she had to deal with something.
She had to step out early, she said.
Yeah. So I'm going to just I'll keep you guys on screen because you're just more interesting to look at than just me by myself.
Oh, I don't know. You've got those adorable.
Oh, well, I had to put those on because Leslie had her Maleficent horns on, and I had to join the party.
You had to bring it. You always do, J.M. Landels.
I got these horns.
You are true grit.
I got these horns from a wonderful local artist named Monica, and I can't remember her last name, but she was at one of the last live events we did just in the fall of 2019. It was a Christmas market at in Westminster, and I'm looking forward to having in-person events again, so we can go and buy wonderful things from artisans. And there we go. Just see if I can find my list. There's my list of what. Oh yes, the next prize is an Alenia bundle. Oh well, you get 3 books from me. And that goes to number 1, who is Laura Kuhlman. So Laura, you will get all 3 of the Alenia Song trilogy. The first 2 books you'll get right away. The third one is in copy edits right now. So hopefully we were hoping to get it out this year. I don't think it'll come out this year, but early next year. It should be in your inbox. So give Melissa or Brooklyn your email address. And then we have one more door prize, and that is a Raven bundle. So the door prize is everything that, all the issues that have Raven winners in them. So that is, I believe they come out in the spring. So a collection of all the spring issues. So you'll get to read every single Raven story. And that is going to number 6. Number 6, Ellen Spacey. All right, so that should be, you'll be getting 8 issues. Give your email address to Melissa, and congratulations. So everybody else, remember to, if you buy an issue, anything from our bookstore, digital or print, novel, magazine, back issue, whatever, fill out that form, send us your friend's email address, and we'll send them the same issue or the same novel in digital version just until tomorrow. So happy Halloween, everybody. Thank you again. Thank you, Renee and Leo, for coming on. And thank you to all our authors and poets. You are wonderful.
And you are wonderful. I just want to say congratulations on you're going to have a trilogy out now and all the work you do. Wow, you're amazing. So congratulations. This is just an incredible effort and in a pandemic. So yay you.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. Okay. And come on over to Discord. The party's still going on in Discord.